Hey, oh my gosh, it's already Sunday again. Nah, it's not, just kidding. We're just making a quick video about the Marauder bike we got last time. And I will show you how to mod it and how to customize it. Well, not so much on the outside, but on the inside. So let's get back to it. There we are. That's the bike that we got last time doing the quick drive. And as I said, I've been taking it for a test ride, and I gotta say it's not too bad in terms of how it operates in curves, but it got its issues, I gotta say. One of the main issues, obviously, is, as I said last time, that it throws a lot of arrows, which is quite annoying. In order to suppress those arrows, you may want to change your preferences. And that's when you open Avatar, then go to Preferences and Notifications. And once you're there, you got a tab that says Objects and Scripts. And that has report script hours. So, if you are a builder, you probably want to keep them on. But for the majority of people, they are just annoyed by those pop-ups. So, either you uncheck this box, or you change it from separate window to nearby chat. That should suppress the box on the upper left to pop up every time it throws this couldn't find the agent and set back the animation rights modifications. So, about the bike itself. Once you took care of the issue with the arrows popping up, it's not a bad bike. Oh my god, I think I swallowed a frog today. Yeah, so about customization of this thing. One big issue I encountered when I tried to mod this is that you can't really change the position of stuff. So if I went here and, for example, took the solid shell, that's what bounces on the street, and you move it around, it is reset back to its original position once you get on the bike and off again. So the same goes for stuff like the stand. If you make it shorter or stuff like that, it will just displace it the next time you get on the bike or off, because the creator has set it in a way that has predefined positions of the different elements of the bike, which means that whenever you actually try to move something or you make it longer or shorter, you will encounter the issue that the script will still try to reposition it to its original place. So that's a bit out of the question there and limits us in what to do. The lucky end of this bargain is that the creator actually left us the options of the scripts available. So if we enter the menu, you see that we got options and positions, and within the options there is a lot of stuff. There's the advanced menu, there's the controls menu, and a lot more. The first thing that we start with is we actually get on the bike, but first notice that it is a bike with a passenger seat. This thing in the back here is for a second person, so you yourself would usually sit in the front. Just keep it in mind. So once you get on, like this, it starts with this brake light, and it's super loud. So far I haven't figured out how to disable the red light, which is a bit annoying, but it only shows up when you are in the parking position. The front light, however, you can switch off or you keep it on auto light. I found it quite nice, so I didn't touch it much. But you already see that the biggest issue will be the size of the bike. And in order to tackle this, you will go to, let's see, advanced. And so you first go to options and then you go to advanced. And there you find resize. Now, the steps are a bit of a pain, to be honest. So you can resize it by 0.5% or 1%, up and down. And obviously, I'm a bit short, so I got to size it down. And since it's just 1%, it takes a few tries. And the bike itself is quite wonky. So if you resize it, it gives the bike a push. You will see it when I click it. There you go. I just resized it by 1 and it moved the bike. No idea why, but it does. I guess it's because either the gravity is too high or the physical shell is in the way and pushes the bike down, and due to its shape, it's pushed out of the ground forward again. That's just a guess though. So let's just keep this up. I think I gotta do this a few more times actually. So options, advanced, resize, another %. And you already see how much we've moved just from resizing. We just keep this going. And we are already getting closer. The issue now is that the handles are still quite far off, so I still gotta resize it more. But we're getting closer. I think one more. Probably one more. Yeah, that's the thing. You see, the 1%, it just gets less every time you click it. You start with 100, and 100 is the big bike. You take off 1%. That makes the entire bike a bit smaller. And now the smaller bike is the new 100%. And if you reduce it by 1% again, this 1% is a lot smaller than the 1% you took off before. So every time I resize it, it's a bit less, I fix it. But we're really getting close now. Now the main issue of the resize is that it didn't adjust the position, which means that now we basically sit on the passenger seat. And in order to fix this, that was the wrong one, you go to the main options and you hit position. All, and then forward. It's a lot, so maybe try XL. But since I had to resize it a lot, I just go with the normal. Oh no, I go with the XL. And now just backwards twice. There we go. And now we're gonna go down. Probably XL as well. Yeah, that's still not enough. And there we go. That looks a lot better already. And I'm not sure we could still move a bit forward actually. There we go. And we also made room for the passenger seat again. Now, we can't really change much about the rotation of the position. If I could, I would probably rotate myself forward a bit so the butt is a bit higher, but that's how it is. And I would say, let's try, yeah, that's good, I guess. Maybe up once again. So, obviously, this is how you would usually use it. But the bike itself is just way too fast. And the shifting is a real pain. As you saw last time, I equipped the hut and I was under the impression that shifting didn't work at all. But that's just because the default shifting was set to a key combination that you have to know in order to use it. And I'm used to push up and down, which is not the default on this one. So in order to change this, you would go to Options and Shift Style. Click it once and there you go. Now it's page up and down, which is way more natural, I would say. So once this is done, oh, here's the auto lights also. That's for turning on the front light whenever you enter the bike. And it obviously shuts it off if you get off the bike again. You can adjust the sounds, 1 or 2. And I think I also saw options on where you could make the rattling noise of the motor louder or less loud. You can switch to automatic, but I think as it is right now, you shouldn't do this. And that's because the gears on this are really nuts. You will see this once we get there. So actually I would say the steering was quite nice, but it oversteered a bit. So I would reduce this by 2 actually. Maybe even a bit more. Or maybe not. Let's see. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's way too much. Okay. So I would probably keep the steering about 180 or 190. For now, I think we go with 180. Because if it's steering too much, you just have to move from the direction you steer into and then start to correct direction because you oversteer. And if you reduce the steering by default, the risk of oversteering is much lower. And that reduces the chance of you just going left, right, left, right. So that's it for the steering, but we still gotta fix something else. And that's also in options, controls, and PS. I don't know what the person had in mind when he made this, but the gears are absolutely nuts. And I mean they are nuts. So gear 1 at 35 is already quite fast. That's like gear 2 for most other vehicles. So I would go and reduce this to at least 30. If you are usually a slower driver, I would even say go to 20 or 25. No higher. So after gear 1, obviously you'll have to do this for all the other gears. And the jumps are crazy. The first was 35. The second is 55. That's 20 more. And that's already super quick. So at most, doing the drives, I drive between 70 and 100 at straight roads. And 55 is already really close to the lower end of what you would drive on a straight road. So It doesn't feel good if you switch up the gear and you suddenly feel like a rocket. I would suggest either go in steps of 10 or 15, but not 20. For gear 2, if you are a slow driver, you will go to second gear 10 or 15 higher than the first. So that would be 30 or 35. For the normal drivers or the fast ones, I would say 40 or 45. You can try more, but I don't see why you would. Since I'm usually a bit faster, I go to 45. But the third level, the gear is already crazy. That's 85. 85 is little to top speed of driving a straight line. That's not something you want to do on gear 3. So we gotta click this button a lot. So I had the second gear on 45, I think. And if I add another 15, that would come out at 60. So you see that the higher you go on the gears, the less it gets on what the creator thinks would be funny. But it's not realistic on the road. Here we are already on 110. That's maximum top speed if you have been on a straight line for a really long time. And considering that there is sync crossings and turns and all that, you don't get to drive 110 most of the time. And to make this gear 4 out of, I don't know, 7 gears, that's nuts. So yeah, if you want to use this bike, you have to adjust this. Definitely. Along with the steering, because if you are a bit slower, you don't want to also steer even more. Let's just keep clicking this. Now the problem is that I forgot what I said the last two. 45, that's 60, so I guess that's 75 now. There we go. And now we get to gear 5, and I think we can keep this at 100, maybe 110. But as I said, that's absolute maximum. And even I don't think I will drive this. I'll go to 100 because it's really not realistic. Especially if you get a bit of lag on the road, that's just crazy. So there we are. And 6 and 7, we just removed them. Look at this. That's more than a rocket. Oh my gosh. Alright. Now the gears are more or less normal. You could attempt to set it to automatic, but yeah, let's try it actually. Where was it though? In options, automatic. There we go. But before we hit the road, we take a look at the bike itself, cause I'm not sure if this is modern or chic, but I don't like the bikes. You probably don't either. And in order to remove them, I've tried the menu, but it didn't work. So you go to edit linked there. This is under the middle button. Edit linked. Go to the bags and texture, transparency, and give it 100. There you go. And now you just do this for all the back items. There you go. And there's these little rings. Oh, I missed them. They're hard to it. There you go. And the back is gone. Oh, there's more. You should not, definitely not, try to remove them from the bike. Because if you do that, the bike itself, like if you unlink it, it's disassembled and reassembled. And that changes the link number of all of the items on the bike. And that is super risky. In most cases, that totally screws up your bike. I tried that with the Super 80 and it totally ruined it. So I had to use the older copy to recover the car. The thing is, most of the time the scripts are set to find items by link number. And for example, turn the tires or stuff like that. And if the tires are suddenly 80 instead of 60, that means that another part is now considered the tires. And that could lead to funny stuff. There we go. That should that takes care of the bags. And I'm not sure if you want to keep the plate, but I think it looks a bit odd. If I would use the license plate, I would have placed it here. And in that regard, I think we also take this down with the same functionality. Edit and transparent. Dun, dun, dun. There we go. And it already looks a lot different. More sporty, I would say. Now, one of the good aspects of the bike is that the box actually came with all of the textures and they were moddable, and in that regard you can download them and change the texture itself. And then obviously you would re-upload it. So I have done this, and you go to the thing I did again. You hit the tank or whatever part you want to change. And then you just have to find your texture. That's this one in this case. And you put it here. You can also click on the window. And then it opens the texture select box. And you just pick it from there. So there we go. I made this yesterday. Alright, now you could go and select these parts. Well, not this, but these. And you could make them a bit darker. I think that would improve the look. Like 50 or something. Maybe even 40. There. It looks quite different already. The problem is you can't single edit this because it's part of the entire front. And I think even with select face, you can't just select the white part. That means if you try to change the color, it would change the color of the entire part, as can be seen. So we are kinda stuck with this, but yeah, no big deal. Just gotta check the other sides. Oops. There we go. Yeah, that's a separate part. So we go down on 50 on this as well. And on these things. 40, I guess. You could even set these at a lower point value and make it darker if you like. I just think that this will go. Now for this, you can actually edit this and make it transparent. Or you change it with whatever you like. But the funny part is that there's actually some writing below this. And I think it says Indian or something. Yeah, something like that. And it doesn't look too bad. I'm not sure what's behind this. But probably just a hole. So not really fun to look into. On the other side, however, that's not so simple. Because if you just hide this entirely, it looks a bit dumb. There. Looks pretty shit. So what I did here is to actually set it to 90, I think, or 80. And that means that it still shows through, but it's not so prominent. You can fiddle around with this until you find something that suits you better. You can change the show highlight, and it will remove the blue outer lines that usually show you what you have selected. So if you go and change it, you immediately see what it changes to. And I guess 60 isn't too bad. So after all of this, yeah, that's the one. Okay. So after all of this, you can take it for a test ride. And I would suggest that you try it on a road that has a bunch of curves. Whoop. So as you can see, the steering is still kinda bad. And by bad, I mean it's steering way too fast. Whoop. So that's another thing that I encountered a lot with this bike. Even if I use the low leg version, it still seems to have some really bad crossings. And I'm not really sure why that is. Ah, there you go. So that's what it looks like when, oh my gosh. That's what it's looking like when you have the errors on the local chat. You can also take them down entirely, but if you usually build or script stuff, I wouldn't suggest that. But as you could see, it's still a bit too fast, and the steering is also still too much. Like way too much. And I don't even use the toolable. If you use the toolable with this, you're crazy. But yeah, as I said, I would go about 20 or 25. That should be more than enough. And then slowly go up like this. That should be good. And I think I'm also using the automatic right now, so it's possible that the issues I'm encountering right now is because the bike is queuing up without me trying to drive carefully here. So let's set it back to manual, and you see that the driving is totally different already. When I used the Super 80, I got the automatic on, because the Super 80 is an entirely different class than this. But if you take the time and configure this, it can be a really nice bike, aside of the errors. It takes a bit of practice too, but as you can see, the driving behavior is like a totally different vehicle right now. And whoops. If we gear up to 2, that's the 40 now. It's already twice as fast, so you can try to keep the first gear on 22 or 30. But if you do, you should definitely drive this bike with with manual. And I think I got stuck in the grass. Yeah, so in the second gear, this seems kinda okay. It's still almost too fast, especially in this narrow place. Whoop. Okay. There we go. If you realize that you get stuck on the ground a lot, that's probably because of the position of the collision trim. There's one solid trim that is responsible for the collision. And as I said, you can't move it. That's this one. That's prone to getting stuck at stuff. It would have been better if the person made this more of a sharp edge. Or entirely round, I guess, but the way it is, it's a bit problematic. Sometimes it helps to fiddle around a bit with the gravity settings, but that's not a given to make it any better. It's really just an attempt. And gravity is basically the pull downwards. So if you try and fiddle around with the gravity, that can also mean that the falling time is increased or reduced. So you gotta keep it in mind that gravity isn't just the feeling on the road, but it's also jumping and falling and stuff like that. And you see, if you drive a bit faster, the errors are coming in way more as well. And we're taking a bit, well, that's what I said. This bike is kind of prone to flying, but I can't really tell if this is just Second Life, because I also had these issues during the last drive. And I don't want to treat this bike unfairly. But you already see the amount of errors we get. This was the third in like 4 crossings, and that's really bad. it's most likely linked to how fast we are. So the faster you go, the more likely it is you encounter the errors. But that doesn't make it any better because, as you remember, the bike itself was supposed to be a lot faster. And we are flying again. What's a bit sad is that the bike does a full stop. Whenever you hit a crossing and you stop pressing the buttons, it's like a full stop and it doesn't throttle on. I'm not sure if this is actually good or bad, because on one hand, it can prevent you from just flying somewhere, but on the other hand, it also takes down all the speed and momentum. Oh my gosh. I would go off-road a bit, but as you can see, the places around are rather steep. You can't really go up there. Whoop, and another error. Also, I wouldn't try to make the wheels any thinner, because it could also lead to replacing the wheels to the left or right whenever you get off the bike and back on. And it was already the second error again. And the third. So you should really not use the pop-up box with the errors when you use this bike. And oh my gosh. I don't want to make it sound like this bike is super bad, but this is usually bad scripting. Like, there is a LL stop animation somewhere, and that is throwing this error. And if you had just placed some proper ifs around it, then you could potentially stop half of them at least, if not more. Like, you could check if the avatar is available in the same region and if you even got the permissions before you stop him. And instead they just kind of fired into the void. So I'm kinda scared about the Yoshi version of this bike, because remember that this is the low lag version and it's lagging a lot. So I don't wanna know how much lag the actual version is producing, but it gives me a bit of the role-playing vibes. So maybe this is more of a role-playing bike. Oh my gosh. But it's rather smooth now, as you can see. So if you take the time and fiddle around with the settings, you can make this quite a nice bike. And I think during the last drive I was using the Shinobi super bike, which is a super old bike, which was, I think, even made by Christy, who runs the drivers of Second Life. It's more or less comparable, I would say. At least after you did all those changes. Oh my gosh. The good part about this bike is the turning at a spot like this. This can help you a lot when you are stuck at, like, this wall, for example. If you are stuck in this wall, usually you would have to try and go backwards or something, but okay. This bike is also very bumpy. So instead of just turning on the spot, you can just hit the wall head on and bounce back. Oh my gosh, another error. Oh yeah, there's another part that is sadly really messed up. The bike has flight option, and usually that would lead to the bike being a sort of a hoverboard. But it's not working in this bike. You can click it and the bike enters the flight mode, but that's it. It doesn't fly. If you hit page up, it does kind of a bit of a wheelie, like raising the front wheel and going forwards. But that's not flight. And hitting page down is like just going forwards. This also doesn't change if you change back the shifting to the usual. It's a general issue, I would say. Yeah, being like this on the ground isn't really flying. I could imagine that that's probably an issue with the creator forgetting to remove the gravity. But I don't want to fiddle with this. Because if you reduce the gravity and set it to 0, just so the flight mode works, you can't drive the bike anymore. Or you always switch back and forth, but that's stupid. So yeah, we just land the bike and use it on the road like a bike. Whoop. Anyways, I think that pretty much concludes what you can do with the bike. I'm sure there's a lot more in the options, but that's probably what you would use the most. As I said, this is designed for 2 people, so you can take someone along with the ride. Just warn them ahead that it's gonna be bumpy. Alright, so that's it for now. I hope this video helped some people, and if you got any questions, try to watch the video again. Nah, just kidding. You can always contact the person the bike is from. In this case, that's Loxely or MotoDesign, or if nothing else, you can try to ask your questions in the Drivers of Second Life group. And who knows, maybe I'm even online and answer to your question. Alright, I would say we end this video now and just play around with the bike a bit. Also, you got several sitting positions, like parking animations, but you can just play around with those if you sit on the bike. It has somewhere, let's see, nope, it was somewhere. Where the heck was it? Oh yeah, it's funny that I found this now. That is in the extra menu. You can change the volume, so you make it a bit quieter, like this. And there is the glow. So you can change the glow of like the black parts and the metal parts, which is quite high actually. So maybe reduce this by 1 or 2. And you can tell it to start in a parking position. But that's not what I was looking for. I never tried the alarm, by the way. I think I don't have access to it now because I'm not parked. And since I can only go between gear 1 and reverse, that's unfortunate. You can use the HUD. The bike comes with a HUD. And there it is. Ah yeah, you can stop the engine. And now you can change between the park plus and minus, and it changes the animation, like sitting there differently, or I think one was doing something on the front wheel or leaning on the bike, stuff like that. And you can use the HUD to change the poses as well. And basically you can access everything that you can do on the menu as well on the HUD. But I don't know, I don't really like using the HUDs, especially if they look like this. Like, come on, that's a lot of buttons. But the nice thing about this HUD is that you can change the HUD skin. If you click here, it's almost behind my avatar right now. Let's move it to the left a bit. So there's the HUD skin. And you already saw, once you click this, it changes the colors of the HUD. It's not a big deal, but a bit of customization to make it look like whatever you want. Obviously, the HUD itself can also be edited, and you can change the colors however you want, but that's even more fiddly. So yeah, that's really it now. I hope the video helped, and try out the bike. It's a nice bike, and if you do the drive from last week, you can get it for free, so what's the harm in this, right? Anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on Sunday or whenever I stream next. Maybe I'll do another reading video first. Who knows? Have a nice day.